Welcome, Sean, to the podcast. I'm super happy to have you here on Run, Thrive, Survive. Before we dive into today's podcast, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself to the audience. Super brief introduction because you're a super awesome individual, and we have a lot to dive into today.
I don't know if I want to follow up on that because you just said if I'm super awesome, anything I say is just going to detract from that statement. So I want to live on that high for a little bit. All right, kidding aside. My name
Celebrity
is Sean
status. Here we
Lake.
go.
There we go. My name is Sean Lake. I live in Encinitas, California. I am a proud father of 2 little kids running around, husband to a 10-time marathoner who drags me out to run all the time.
Oh my god!
And oh yes, and I own a great little natural supplement brand called Bubs Naturals, and there's a whole big story behind that. And I used to snowboard for a living.
Okay, so where do we start? I'm telling you, you're an awesome, super awesome person. I want to start with one thing. Ensenadas, California. Is that what you just said?
Encinitas, it's about 30
Encinitas.
minutes north of San Diego.
I had a friend that lived there, and when they first said it, they called it enchilada because they said nobody could ever pronounce it. So just FYI, you live at Enchilada, California. Anyways, I'm from New Mexico, so I knew what those were very well. Anyways, moving on. How did you become a pro snowboarder? What is the story behind that? Because when I saw this, you moved to Utah, or you went to Utah, University of Utah, which my best friend just graduated from a couple of years ago. So, woo, go University of Utah. How did you get out there, and how did you become a pro snowboarder close to Shaun White? It looks like you worked with his team.
Yep. So I mean, it started in high school, and what I realized early on is that I sucked at team sports. So, you want to play
Love it.
football and you want to play baseball and you want to do the team sport things, and I wasn't any good at them. And what I did gravitate towards were these individual based sports. So I got on the swim team. I ran cross country. I could do the individual activities. Well, alongside of that, you're in your teenage years, you're discovering, all the counterculture stuff like skateboarding.
Yeah.
And for me, it was skateboarding and snowboarding, and a lot of the sideways sports just really spoke to me. So when I graduated high school, all I was dreaming about was, when can I go skateboard? When can I go snowboard? And I have to go to college. So funny enough, and not in my bio, little known fact, my freshman year at college was in Las Cruces, New Mexico at New Mexico State
No
University.
way. No, really? That's crazy. Oh gosh, it was either that or UNM in New Mexico.
That's it. And so I
That's
chose
crazy.
there because I thought it was an easy place to get into college with, because I was trying to be a little punk rock kid, and I didn't want to go through any long process.
Oh
2, it
no.
was the most punk rock thing I could do to my parents, being raised in suburban Massachusetts and move to New Mexico, because, no one went to New Mexico. And 3rd, there were some local snowboard mountains. So I think Ski
Yeah.
Ruidoso was a couple hours away. So I was like, I can go and snowboard. And then Ski Apache was somewhere in the neighborhood as well. So I plotted my college career around going snowboarding. And I dropped out of school right away. I ended up moving to the mountains of Utah with my best buddy from high school, this guy, Glen Doherty, Glen Bub Doherty. So you'll note that name will come back around.
Take note of that name.
I told my mom that I was going to drop out of college to become a professional snowboarder, and she was horrified. But
Every
she was
parent's
equally
dream.
as she was equally as horrified about the idea of paying tuition for a child that wasn't applying himself in college. So
Yeah.
off I went out to Utah, and I was chasing a dream, and I was really passionate about it. And I believe this holds true today, 30 some odd years later. If you are passionate about what you want to do, you're going to find a way to make it happen. And I loved the mountains and being in the snow and being in that culture and being a part of that. And I made it work. And it didn't just happen. There was a lot of falling, a lot of injuries. There was a lot of hard lessons. There was a lot of dishes getting washed in restaurants. But eventually, I got the break. I, did well enough in the contest. I met the company owners that started the opportunities. And as long as you're hustling to create those opportunities, and you have a certain amount of talent, you're going to get there. The talent is earned though. You don't just jump on a snowboard and you're suddenly amazing. You have to put in the hours of work. I was never what I would call an amazing snowboarder. I just made sure I rode 120 plus days a season every season to get those hours in to learn more about it. I just loved the process. And yeah,
Absolutely.
I got to ride for a little while. So it was really neat to get paid to ride a snowboard. And this was in the 90s when it was a wild time. And I was out there with my best buddy, Glenn. And that was the start of it. The start of it was dropping out of school, eventually going back to school. I should say I did wrap up my degree in the off season. So I used to go to college summer semester and fall semester when there was no snow. And that allowed me to pick off a degree. By the ripe old age of 30, I graduated college.
Hey, you know what? You still graduate. Doesn't matter if you graduate at 20 or 30. You still graduate, right? What does it matter? We don't use our degrees half the time. We just have them, right? Have you used your degree?
No.
Okay,
But I will
there we
say
go.
this. So I got a degree in
The
political
knowledge.
science.
Okay.
And the only thing I would say that it did for me was it creates a little bit of an analytical mind looking at how companies work. So I've definitely gotten caught up in
Absolutely.
bureaucracies and red tape. And I've been like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that in the US government class I took, back then. Um, but at the same time, what a college degree does, and I believe this firmly, is it helps you set a goal with an end line and it gives you the tools to get there. And it's up to the individual to say, I can commit myself to 4 years of work and apply myself to get to this end goal. What you do from then on is almost irrelevant to me. It's more that you can set a goal, you can accomplish the goal, and you walk out past that because that's something that's hireable.
Hey, absolutely. That's what people like to see, that you can stick to something long enough and get through it no matter how hard it is to get a piece of paper. That's pretty much what they're looking for,
Bingo.
not just what you learned. But
Yep.
I
So
want I want oh, go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go.
No. So I want to be super real because I love being real on the podcast. I want to ask you this, and you can also make something up if you don't feel super comfortable sharing. When you say, there's a lot of lows, there's a lot of highs in this journey that you've taken. What was one of the lowest points that maybe you reached at some point thinking, this is not going to work? Maybe I was wrong trying to go for as a professional snowboarder, but you overcame it. Do you remember any points like that? Was there just one that rings in your mind?
Yeah. I had to call home to borrow money. I was 20 years old. I wasn't employed for like 3 months. I literally could not get a job. I was living in Lake Tahoe and it was rock bottom. Like I was scraping the couch cushions for coins. And I'll never forget it because we would literally be at our buddies' houses pulling, the cushions out to see if there were quarters. And that's how we were eating. That was the low. And I borrowed money. I didn't have a P.O. box. So my mom would send me a letter to, Sean Lake, general delivery, Tahoe City. So that was like the general delivery mailbox. So then you have to go up to the counter, show them an ID to get your mail. That was the low point. Um, I ended up getting a job, and that was one
Good.
of the many dishwashing jobs. And then, you move past that phase, but that was a low. And, what does that do for your esteem when you have all these dreams that you want to accomplish? I was lucky. I was able to call mom, and mom was there to bail me out. And it stuck with me because I try to make sure I never had to call her again in that kind of a bind. Um, Oddly enough, I will say that she did come through at the early stages of Bubs, but that was a much more pleasant investment in the company, not
Right.
mom, I'm desperate. And, I'm scraping couch cushions for coins here.
I can't eat tonight. No, absolutely. Totally different story. Now, through this process, was your end goal to be that professional snowboarder? Or maybe once you got to that professional snowboarder, was it again, what do I want to be when I grow up? How did you keep going past it? How did you just keep seeing you reach a goal and you have to excel past it before we get into Bubs?
Yeah. So my resume, if you look at me on LinkedIn, it looks really strange. Like it's not a straight line. There's not like I went to law school and then I, did my pre-law, my post-law, and then I did these things to get into a law practice. I literally went to college, dropped out of college, chased the snowboard dream for the better part of a decade, put together a degree, didn't use it, and ended up moving in a different direction. That is a part open mind, because I did have a career goal leaving snowboarding. I knew I couldn't snowboard forever. So great conversation between
Reasonable.
Glenn and myself that is relevant and ties back to what we'll probably talk more about.
Yeah.
When I was turning 25, I had made it as a sponsored snowboarder. I was earning a little bit of money from snowboarding. I had a job, waiting tables at a restaurant. My best buddy, Glenn, who had moved out from Massachusetts with me to Utah to be a pro skier, had not made it as a pro skier. And he was like, hey man, what are we going to do with the rest of our lives? Like, we can't do this forever. Now, Ciara, all of our friends had graduated college. All of our friends had gotten their first career job. Half of them were married. And here's Glenn and me, like long hair, shaggy ski bums, that we just hadn't done that. So Glenn looks at me and he says, well, I think I'm going to join the Navy and become a Navy SEAL.
Wow.
Now, this is in 1995. There's not a lot of info
Okay.
out on the Navy SEAL world. And I'm like, wait, what? You want to stop touring with the Grateful Dead in the summer and being a river raft guide and skiing all winter to go and join the military? And he was like, yeah, man, like I think that's my next challenge, my next calling, because we knew we couldn't do what we were doing forever. That spoke to him. And he did. He went on and he did that. Literally joined the Navy, became a Navy SEAL. I went to his Buds graduation, and he rocketed down that path for 10 years. Unscripted. Let's be clear about the reason Glenn and I
Right.
probably were such close friends for so long was we would do these things that would take our lives into different directions. I knew I wanted the degree. I wanted the paper. I said, okay, well, I'll go get my degree in political science. Then I'll join the State Department as a security agent or just an agent, so that I can travel the world and still have more adventures.
There we go.
So the key theme here for both Glenn and myself, the next adventure.
Absolutely.
And so I got my degree in political science. I was waiting to take the civil service exam, which I was told was the next gated step in joining the State Department. And I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. And that's when I got a phone call from some of the people at Burton Snowboards to work with a young kid named Sean White.
Wow.
So all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I've got this plan. It's kind of a loose plan, but I like it. I'm going to join the State Department. And next thing you know, I am moving to Encinitas, Enchilada, California, to work with a young kid named Sean White. And it was a complete left turn in an unplanned career. And it was the opportunity, though. And, I had to ask myself and look in the mirror and say, am I the kind of person who wants to wear a shirt and tie to an office and work for the State Department? Or do I want an excuse to get paid really good money to work for the world's largest snowboard brand and run around with this young kid, Sean, and see what that's all about?
So put us on a timeline. Was Sean White, was he a name yet? Or was this just when he was just getting started too?
Yeah, he was 15, 16, 17. So he was right before he won his first Olympic gold medal. So this was like all the
Wow.
lead up stuff of winning the X Games, winning the Vans Cup, and like all the snowboard contests, but he had not gone to his first Olympics yet.
And your role in that was what?
So I was the North American team manager for Burton Snowboards. So I worked with a handful of the riders on the team. He was the most recognizable name. So, everyone's like, oh, you work with Sean. Fact is, I didn't work with him that long. It was just happened to be during those critical times. But I was the guy who used to make sure he did his homework before we went to snowboard practice. It was like, hey, make sure you answer those questions. We got to turn in your homework. And then, developing product and flying all around the world, to do the things.
Because he was still going to high school. He still had to finish everything that he needed to do, no matter what, education above all.
Yep.
So kind of moving in from, so you went from there. I want to I want to get into Bubs, because you have a collagen brand, if I'm
Yes.
If I say anything wrong, mistake me. You have a collagen brand. I want to say I love collagen. Anybody listening, you need collagen in your diet. I'm going to let you explain all of this because this is your brand. This is what you do. But anybody listening, I highly recommend collagen. You just need it. I promise you, 100%. But I want to hear the story behind your brand, Bubs.
All right. So I'm going to go kind of back in time to fill the
Absolutely.
story in. So, listen, the audience that we're talking to, we're all active people. We're all pursuing an active lifestyle. And there's a very simple reason to tie back to how this guy, Sean, with this really meandering career, landed in the nutrition space. But going back in time to after my buddy Glenn got out of the Navy. So Glen Doherty. So Glenn served 10 years in the U.S. Navy as a SEAL, my best friend. When he got out, he moved to Encinitas. So he was stationed in Coronado, which is just down the street. So when I graduated and I moved to San Diego to Encinitas, Glenn was right down the street. So it was like we got the band back together. Fast forward a couple years, he gets out of the Navy. He moves right down the street from me. Couple more years go by and we're hanging out all the time. Glenn is who really gets me back into running. I start training with him. I start riding bikes and we start doing all the fitnesses together because now we're in our mid late 30s. So he gets out of the Navy and he starts contracting for the Central Intelligence Agency, a natural transition for a special operator to go and work private security and do, special operations type of work. So it's really dangerous. He's gone on these deployments for 3-4 months at a time. And then he comes home for 3 or 4 months at a time. So stupid good money. He loved that. Very high risk job. And it was what he was doing until the next thing arrived. So he was in this kind of transition phase for years, figuring out what his next calling in life was going to be. I was working in action sports marketing. So I had my job at the time. I was the marketing director at DC Shoes, which was a part of Quicksilver. And my best buddy is just figuring it out. And he's going to Beirut or he's going to Iraq or Afghanistan. He's in these high danger areas. And, fast forward again till about 2010. Now we're roommates. We're two dudes that just turned 40, both divorced, running around. We're in the CrossFit gym. We're doing trail runs. We're surfing. We're having all these great life adventures. All the while, Glenn's trying to figure out what's next. Do I go back to school? And, what's that next thing? Well, in the fall of 2012, Glenn was stationed in Tripoli in Libya. And Glenn responded to the terrorist attacks on 9/11 in Benghazi, Libya. So some of your listeners might remember Benghazi, Hillary Clinton, who got in a whole bunch of trouble. There was a whole congressional hearing about it. There were 4 Americans killed. My roommate was one of them. He was not just my best friend. I was the executor of his estate. I was his listed next of kin, and I was in charge of all of his, legal affairs. So when Glenn died, this larger than life personality, this big, person in the room who everyone loved. And I mean, literally, he had hundreds of best friends. There was a really big movement to keep Glenn's memory at the table. How do you take this person that was so important to hundreds of people and keep his memory alive? So the initial plan, pre-Bubs, was let's start a foundation and help special operators transition out of active duty to civilian life through scholarship. So all of a sudden, I'm in the scholarship nonprofit space, and I don't know anything about it, but it was Glenn's sister, a couple high school friends, and we all just had passion to lead us. And remember what I talked about from snowboarding, like when you really want to do something, you find a way to do it.
Absolutely.
So, we started a foundation and we help special operators transition out of active duty, filling gaps in the GI Bill. And it was awesome. Now fast forward a couple of more years, the movie 13 Hours has come out. The congressional hearings are over. The press is starting to die down. And I'm left with, the memory of Glen, and my wife introduces me to collagen protein. And she famously says, "You're not getting any younger. I need to preserve your old ass." So
What a way to politely put it.
she probably said it nicer than that, but I'm embellishing a little bit. So
But
she
I love it.
introduces me. Yeah, she says, "Look at you, we're starting a family. You're 45 years old. I got to keep you young." So she buys me a jar of collagen off of Amazon and she says, "I want you to start taking this." And I didn't know anything about collagen. Now, this is like early 2017. And I start taking it.
Okay.
I just put a scoop in my coffee in the morning. Now, my fitness routine was running, CrossFit, surf, snowboard, all the things, 5-6 days a week, as much as I could handle. But I knew that I was breaking down. The miles were starting to show. I wasn't moving as fast. I was feeling a lot of aches and pains. And after about 30 days, I tried it every single day, just a little bit in my coffee every day. I ramped up to 2 scoops a day. And after about a month, I noticed something was happening. The specific thing I noticed was that my fingernails were growing like crazy. Then I
That's the
needed a
first thing.
haircut. And about 2 months in, right around there, I had the most epiphanal experience. I got out of bed, was moving around, doing the things, and my knees did not hurt. And my knees had been bothering me for 7-8 years, and they just didn't hurt. And I mean, it felt
Wow.
very immediate. Like I had one of those
Wow.
like, oh shit moments. Like, I can't believe it. And I knew what it was. I mean, it had to have been this product because it was the only thing I was doing diet wise that could have affected it. Well, another month goes by and I feel even better. Another month goes by and I feel even better. So I'm probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 months in on taking collagen, and my future business partner, TJ, comes over to the house. He sees the jar of collagen and he's like, "Oh, you take that stuff?" And I start raving about how great I feel, and I'm squatting and I'm running and I'm back to my old times and like everything's working great.
Right.
And he just goes, "Hey man, let's start a company." And I'm like, "Huh? Yeah, you want to start a company? I've got a 1-year-old crawling around behind me that needs a diaper change." And we looked at each other and we said, "Well, what would a company look like?" And we both said at the exact same time, for different reasons, "Well, whatever we do, we got to do something cool for charity." And I just said, "Well, hey man, like I know the charity. It's got to be Glen's charity." And Glen's call sign in the Navy was Bub. So we'll name the company
Oh.
Bubs Naturals as a tribute to Glen and his way of life. This guy that stood for self-improvement, like all of our products stand for self-improvement.
Oh, yeah.
And Glen was always helping others. So we decided right there we would donate 10% of profits to charity in Glen's name. So we launched with collagen protein. We made sure that the whole world knew that we didn't have just any collagen.
Of
So
course.
we're the only brand that is 100% NSF certified for sport. So it's a label, claims, and cleanliness of ingredient branding that we proudly display. And we're one of 2 brands that is Whole30 approved, the Whole30 clean eating diet. So we set out there, be like, look, if I'm putting Glen's name on the jar, this has to be the best collagen on the planet, period.
Now, can we take a step back really quick? Because I'm curious to ask you, do you have specific charities that you give to the 10% of the proceeds? Or is it something that maybe the user can pick? Or is it something that maybe every ever other month or year? Is it someone different?
That's actually a great question. So the predominant charity has been Glen's charity, the Glen Doherty Memorial Foundation. So I
Okay.
started to run, I was a part of the start of the foundation. I stepped away from that and I was like, I can be way more effective funneling dollars in. Like if I launch this brand, we might be able to do something cool here. Beyond that, we've done donations to Protect Our Winters, which is a big environmental cause that's big in the outdoor ski snowboard space.
Oh,
Um,
winters. I thought you said winners. Okay, winters. I was
Protect
like,
our winners.
protect our winners. I was like, what? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
No, protect our winters. And then the Kiala
Did that
Foundation,
one.
the Matt Light Foundation. There's been a
Okay.
handful of different groups. There are things that Glenn would have gotten behind that I
Absolutely.
feel very, very strongly about. We can put money here. So we've donated a little over $125,000 to date.
Awesome.
We've had the business for almost 4 years, and it's been a really neat journey. So yeah, we're here, and we want to make sure that we have not only the best collagen on the planet, but that there's something a little more substantive behind the brand that people can get behind.
So, a little bit about the collagen itself. Why is it that it helps athletes so much?
So great question. And something that I would not have been able to answer 4 years ago. I just
Right.
knew I felt good. I never knew why.
Exactly.
But you've been hearing about for years, everyone saying it's like, oh, take glucosamine. It's great for your joints.
Hmm.
And that's what I was always told when I was snowboarding in the 90s. And I tried it number of different times, never did a thing. However, collagen, which is effectively collagen's a protein. It's the most abundant protein in your body. Collagen is a connective tissue protein. So you probably hear about it more around healthy hair, tighter skin, really strong
Yeah.
fingernails. So hair, skin, and nails is a lot of the vanity metrics around it. Those are all connective tissues. Well, so is your joints, and so are your muscles, and so are your bones. So think increased bone density, think better joint movement and better joint cushioning, and that's through the production of synovial fluid. And how does all that happen? And of course, the muscle recovery. So collagen is loaded with a set of amino acids. These amino acids are in all your main proteins, like your whey proteins, your plant proteins. However, they're absolutely loaded with some of these amino acids. And these amino acids do the things that affect your hair growth, your joints, all that. So I'll give one example because I don't want to bore everyone. Collagen protein is loaded with glycine. Glycine is an essential amino acid that, among other things, produces synovial fluid. So quite literally lubricates your joints. So all the
Okay.
wear and tear and the cushioning and the aches that we get, this alleviates that. Now, you need glycine because your body stops producing collagen back when you're in your 20s. Every year, you just get a little bit less collagen. So by the time you turn 40, you
Yes.
turn 45, you turn 50, you have so much less collagen that we need to supplement with collagen in order to kick that production back into gear. So it's not like you can be like, oh, I'll just eat more kale and I'm going to get my collagen. It doesn't work like that. And there's just a lot of really easy Google science to go behind, to just go and do some reading and learn about. But as runners, as people that put impact on our bodies,
All the
glycine
time.
is one of
Yep.
the most important things I can have on my side. So I'm all about it.
Absolutely. And that's something I preach all of the time. And like I told you, collagen, just take some, if you don't want to take supplements, take collagen. Cause I'm a runner. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've been taking collagen for maybe about 2 years, 3 years myself. Not only has my hair grown, I took it for my hair and my nails, but my knees never ache. My hips don't hurt anymore when I run. And I mean, like, I'm running 60, 70 miles a week. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of running on top of it, and nothing ever hurts. And I'm going to tell you, it's because of the collagen itself right now. So,
Bingo.
exactly. I mean, it's just so important. And I want to bring up one more thing that you said. I'm so happy that you hit on when you're in your 20s, collagen over time. And I think it's like 24 to 25 is when they see that peak,
Yep.
right? And you kind of like you hit the top of that peak, and then like now you're just slowly going downhill with collagen production. I know that scares a lot of people thinking, oh God, 24, 25 is my peak. Well, we have to be real. That's when you have to really start thinking about what you're putting in your body, how you're treating your body, and what you're doing exercise wise and what you need nutritionally for that.
Yep.
Now, kind of in the same realm, how have you seen? I actually want to ask you this. Have you gotten a lot of feedback with your collagen and a lot of like heartwarming stories about how it has helped people in their lives? And what were
So
they?
it's funny that you say that. Those the whole reason for starting the business, right? It wasn't, I'm going to be a mega collagen company. That wasn't the
All right.
goal. The world didn't need another collagen brand. We thought the world might need a company doing things a little bit differently. So when we launched Bubs, we called Glen's family, we called Glen's SEAL teammates, we called like people in his sphere to kind of litmus test the idea. Well, helping others was like just part of it. Like we were thinking about the foundation. We'll give 10% of what we do to charity. Well, all of a sudden we started getting this customer feedback, and it was from new people that had never heard of collagen, but they were receptive to what we were doing. And we get these notes from like the 60-year-old Marine who'd be like, I didn't think I could ever lift weights again. And, I'm making his voice up in my head, but
Right.
he's like, this has changed my life. And
Wow.
then there would be a runner who said, like, I never thought I'd be able to run again. And it was all active stuff. And this has changed my life. So it was really dramatic feedback. And we get it every day. Every day there's some, review that comes in, and they're always like, hey, this has been amazing. Like I'm learning so much, and I'm unlocking this potential, or I'm healing from an injury, or it's absolutely heartwarming to see the feedback loop. Every once in a while, there's a customer who's upset because their box hasn't arrived yet. I can live with those too, but
That's okay.
it's really, it's amazingly heartwarming. And it reminds me of what it was like to first start coaching, athletics and coaching people and like helping people achieve a goal. I feel like we're a small part of that journey of someone taking like a big step forward, whether it's healing or just rediscovering what their body is made of and what its potential is. And to be a part of that narrative is the most warming feeling we could have ever asked for.
Well, you have such an incredible story behind it, because I was gonna ask, do you feel like you're fulfilling Bub's mission, the self-improvement and the always helping people by running this company, by growing this company? Is that what you feel the feedback's allowing you to do?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, when I first started, I was nervous as hell. I was nervous to be an entrepreneur. I was nervous to start a brand when, I had a young family at home. Like it felt so right to do it. Like everyone being like, you got to do this. Glen would kick your ass if you don't do this. Like this is the right thing to do. And then to actually jump into it, it was nerve-wracking as hell.
Yeah, I bet.
And then, I mean, make no doubts about it, a lot of roller coasters along the way. But I got less shy about it over time. Initially, I felt really weird. Like I'm starting a company named after my dead best friend. How
Don't
weird
look
is
at it
that?
that way.
No, but
That's a
I mean,
horrible way to look at
those are
it.
the stories you tell yourself. That's the
Right, no, it
narrative in
is,
your
it's
head.
true. That's the
And then you
reality.
get out of that and you go, okay, what am I really doing here? I'm honoring a memory, but if I'm here to inspire others, not necessarily directly through Glen, I'll bet if you polled 200 customers,
Yeah.
5 would come back and recognize the story, right? This isn't about that. But the ability to spark change in people and to elevate their lives, that's the sticky point. That's the magic. The opportunity to share who Glen was and how important he was to hundreds of people and to inspire others on self-improvement and in helping others. That's the juice right there. Like that's the magic.
I absolutely love it. You have such a powerful story behind it. Now, going forward, where do you see this company going?
We're funny. We're in that kind of jump off right now about the opportunity going into retail, getting into
Oh,
stores, growing, kind of putting our big boy pants on.
that's
And
neat. Well,
the reason I'm
congratulations.
talking and sharing this is because I'm done being shy about what we're doing.
Absolutely.
If we can grow, we can help more people. It's as simple as that. If we can scale and I can keep the quality as intact as we have since the start, which we can, we're going to be able to help more people.
Absolutely.
So the future for us is 100% focused on it's sustainable growth. It's not let's go gangbusters. It's let's do it the right way. But let's get out there and help more people.
Absolutely. And I think we all know too, Bubs is right there with you. Whether you see him or not, he is right there with you growing this entire company.
Yeah. Yeah. That's having him as the North Star is what we
Absolutely.
kind of refer to it. Like, I always know if I'm making a decision, if I feel like it could be something that I really need to deliberate, or there's a right and a wrong, I have that North Star and I can look at that and say, okay, this is the right thing to do.
And he's pulling you over those obstacles, thinking, you got to get through this, right? You're laughing with him.
Oh,
So
he's laughing at me. He's laughing.
always, they're always there. Kind of wrapping it up, I always want to ask this one last question here towards the end of the podcast. And my big goal with this podcast is to really help people break free and be able to run their lives instead of letting life run them. Instead of having all these things like decide their path, I want them to be able to break through free with their health, with their fitness, whatever it is, even their mental health, to run their life. What is something that you have done continuously that you have found has been able to help you run your life? Maybe it's something that has changed over the years. Maybe it's something that has stayed steady over the years. What is that one thing?
Easy answer. This is a newer development. I discovered meditation about 4 years ago. So I'm the guy who would run around with all the ideas
Yes.
scrambling for years and years and years, and keeping me organized was like good luck. And that was emotionally, spiritually, that was, there were pluses and minuses around that. And when I discovered a type of meditation, it's called Zazen. It's an active, focused meditation. It's not for everyone, but it's 100%
Oh,
works for me. It allows me to take a few moments, could be just a few minutes, could be up to 15, 20 minutes of focused time to really just clear the slate. And there's one thing I would akin this to, it would the closest. Do you know the feeling you get when you go for a good long run?
oh yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
it's such a hard feeling to replicate. But hey, if we find another way to do it.
It is. So I run, and obviously I do a lot of different fitness things. And the one thing that happens on the back end of fitness is I find myself with a clear head. The right meditation routine, likewise. So if you start your day with just a few minutes, whatever your practice is or allows for, you can really set the stage for level-headed decision making, positive engagement with others, and just the ability to look at situations, and instead of reacting to them, you learn to respond to them. And I have found that fitness does that amazingly well, but a little bit of meditation coupled with that, and you find yourself in a much better position to engage in the world.
Can you repeat the name of that meditation that you do one more time?
Yeah, so I practice one called Zazen,
Zazen.
Zazen. It's a Japanese active meditation where
Awesome.
you're visual. Your eyes are open. You're not trying to get into some floaty Zen state. Quite the opposite. You're focusing literally on an object in a very set prone position while trying to just blank out all the thoughts in your head. So thoughts are constantly popping in. It's the active meditation to push those thoughts aside to get to that kind of zero state. And then when you come out of it, you let those thoughts gently, come back in. But then you're like, okay, I'm going to do this, 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 this. They're going to get on the whiteboard and I'm going to organize them and get them done.
Wow.
And your kids run in the room and they're screaming, but you don't flip out. You can understand, oh, my daughter stubbed her toe. She's scared. You just have this
Right.
ability to navigate situations with a little bit more pause.
I love that because it sounds, and I'm not labeling it. I want to do more research on it, but it sounds something that would be really good for people with like really high functioning anxiety that don't understand how to, people will sit there for, 10, 15, 20 minutes to an hour, just calm. I'm
Mhm.
like that where meditations never worked because I almost get more anxiety from it. So I'm going to have to research this. I cannot wait. I've never heard of this. This is awesome.
It is
Fantastic
neat.
information.
Yeah, it's neat stuff. And again, there's a lot of different brands of meditation out there. This is
Oh
just
yeah.
happens to be one.
There's
And yeah, it works for the type of people who, you're you see a lot of things around you, and there can be a lot of anxiety, fear-based thinking around it. And this just helps eliminate the fear-based. It helps you be very, very present. You're not thinking about the future or the
Right.
past state. You're very much locked in. It's a good place to be. I definitely recommend exploring it.
That's awesome. I can't wait to I'm actually gonna look that up right after this. So, kind of ending the podcast here, if they wanna find out more about Bubs, where can they go? Where can they buy it?
No problem. So bubsnaturals.com. That's BUBSNATURALS.com. If you're an Amazon junkie, I understand it. I don't love
Oh,
it,
yeah.
but
Oh,
we
yeah.
are Amazon Prime. We are
Woo!
Amazon's choice. You'll get all the little bells and whistles. And, we have a line of collagen protein. We have an MCT oil powder, or as I like to call it, your favorite non-dairy creamer. We make apple cider vinegar gummies, and we're
I
gradually
love it.
opening up this world of self-improvement. But come by for some collagen, man. If you're a runner, or
Mm.
you don't even need to be a runner, you just need to be in life. You need collagen. It's as simple as that.
I love it. Well, Sean, thank you so much for coming on today's podcast. I wish you the best of luck and cannot wait to try your products.
Thanks so much. I look forward to it.